So this is a Marvel Schebler TSX-33. It's a pretty common design, especially in agricultural usage. You'll see it across all sorts of manufacturers. And of course here on the Ford, that's what we've got. It's a pretty basic carburetor, so this should be a pretty quick rebuild. I have a rebuild kit for it. So we're going to pull it off the manifold, take everything apart, and then clean everything out. I have a feeling that inside this float pole at the bottom is a bunch of debris and gunk. Probably have to replace the floats that are in there, and we'll kind of talk about what some of that stuff does. I'm not a carburetor expert, so I'm not going to be giving a comprehensive "this is how a carburetor works" sort of tutorial, because honestly, I think it's kind of just magic how it happens in there. That's pretty much what happens. Is air comes in here, fuel comes in here, magic happens in the middle, and it goes into the combustion chambers, and then we have a tractor that runs. I do know a few things. This is our main jet right here, and the manual that I have says pull that out before you start disassembling everything, so we're going to make sure we do that. Obviously, I'm going to take it off of the manifold before I even bother doing that. And then it's just a matter of undoing every bolt that we see and cleaning things up. Let's get to it. All right, so we start with a couple of half-inch bolts here. Get these off. Looks like it's going to come pretty good. I am going to be taking this video and making it over the course of a couple of days. We're in the middle of a heat wave here, so it's about, I don't know, 80 degrees here in the garage. It's not unpleasant, but it's going to be before too long. So we're going to just cruise along until we get too hot, go inside and enjoy some air conditioning for a little bit here. All right, I'm going to set the manifolds aside for a bit. Yeah, nothing special there. Okay, let's keep everything in there. All right, so very quickly, the parts of the carburetor that we can talk about here. This here is our choke, and if you look real close in there, you can see that some farmer put some weld in there to keep things in place. Hopefully that doesn't impede us as we take things apart. That'll be interesting. But this is a choke, so you would pull it on, obviously, to get the engine started and then turn it off once it was warmed up. This here is our throttle, which you can see actuates the butterfly up at the top. Tractors in general are a little different than your car. In your car, you step on the gas pedal, it pulls this however much you've stepped on the gas pedal, and away you go. In a tractor, we've got a governor. So what you're actually doing is you're setting the lever, and the governor is keeping this open to keep the engine RPMs pretty constant. So what you're really doing is you're selecting kind of an RPM or an engine speed, and then the governor is going to adjust this thing as the engine load increases or decreases to keep that RPM right where you had set it. So if you watch while this is on and we have this running, you'll see there's a bar that comes from the generator or the governor, which is up near the front of the engine, and it will constantly be moving this thing based on the load and what you're doing with it. So yeah, that's kind of what that is. Idle adjustment screw here, main jet we already talked about. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this out, and then we're going to start undoing these screws here to pull the top off and see what's inside our lovely chamber there. Like I said, I'm betting it's not going to be lovely. So in theory, you would be able to do this by hand, but it's been a while, so I'll just do that here. There we go, make sure we don't lose all the pieces. A little bit of rusting and pitting in there, not sure if you can see that very well. That should clean up though. I think I've got a new one of these in the kit. I'll have to take a look. Some lovely stuff in there. I'm going to take off basically everything that can be taken off here. So we're going to go ahead and take this off too. I believe this little clip here is just there to keep the screw from the main jet from moving in or out while the tractor is running, since these are not known as the smoothest running engines. All the vibration there could potentially cause it to twist in or out, which would then screw up your setting there. So we're going to pop that off. Make it a little easier to clean everything. I'm actually going to go ahead and take off this this fuel inlet here as well, and we'll unscrew that guy there, which I believe is the idle jet, and then start taking things apart here. Half. Nope. But we can do it with an adjustable. All right, I guess I'll have to take the little piece of pipe out before I do anything else. Where'd my 7/16 go? All right, I didn't put my 7/16 back. Where, oh, where is my 7/16? Where, oh, where could he be? Found him. You know, I actually had another 7/16 right over here that would work too. Never said I was smart. Yeah, that doesn't look too bad. It's not bad. Putting that somewhere better. Honestly, not as bad as I was expecting. I want a bigger screwdriver. Something with a little more purchase on these guys. That wasn't tight at all. That's reassuring. None of these are on very tight. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Let's pretend it's good. I think I was missing a washer even. Safe to say this is not the first time this carburetor has been apart. I mean, it is 80 years old. Yeah, there's another one missing a washer. Don't need washers. Okay, yeah. Not as ugly as expected, but certainly that doesn't move very freely, and it's supposed to. So that's ugly. We'll fix it. We'll fix it. These floats actually, I mean, they don't look amazing, but I think they are watertight. Very interesting. A little bit of gunk, but really surprisingly clean. You know, I was concerned about like the welds on the choke there, maybe keeping us from getting this out, but this turns freely. It's pretty clean in there. I don't think I'm going to worry too much about that. I'm going to undo this drain plug at the bottom. Well, we're gonna use a lot of carb cleaner on this, a lot of brake clean. Make sure that we can get through all the little passages. But generally speaking, surprisingly, not terrible. I should have seen that coming. Stubborn. Yes, I checked. I'm going the right way this time. Swing a mess. I'm going to pull that guy off. Not a lot of loose material in here, which is actually quite nice. And a bit unexpected, if I'm honest. Okay. Now, get this guy off. There we go. All right, this piece here is part of the magic. Yeah, it does something with physics and those holes on the side. That's about all I know. That and it's supposed to be pretty clean, and it does appear to be pretty clean. I'm just going to be able to go all the way through there. What if we... Yeah, it spurts out the jets out the side, so yippee skippy. Make sure we get our washer down there. Alright, come here. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to mess with much else down here. I'm going to mess with a bit up here though. You know, I'm getting low on brake clean. So it's just a pin that runs through here that holds the float in there. So I just gotta drive it out with a little finesse. I need more finesse. There we go. Like I said, these floats. So the way this works, if you're not familiar, is fuel from the tank comes in and fills up into this chamber here, and this floats in it. And of course, when there's not very much fuel in there, it's down. And then as the fuel rises, these come up. And what this tab at the back does is actually comes in and blocks the input from the fuel coming in, and stops the fuel from overflowing the bowl. Because when it overflows the bowl, then it just dumps out everywhere, etc. And what that does is that allows the carburetor to have a reserve amount of fuel right here that it can pull from when it needs the extra load. It doesn't have to wait for it to come all the way from the tank. So if these floats have holes in them, then instead of floating up, just rise up to the top of the fuel, they will just fill fuel and stay down, and then fuel just goes into them. So you can check them. They're made of brass. You can check them just by dunking them in some water and looking to see if there's any bubbles, see if they fill up, see if they float. And if they float, then they're good to go, and we don't need to replace them. I do have replacement, but if this one works, I'm just going to use it. Now, what we've got here, which sits up underneath here, is our little needle here. And this is actually is what goes into that hole down there at the very bottom and stops the fuel from coming in from the fuel tank when the float is up. So this would ride down just with gravity, would ride down. And then when the floats, I should show you this before I took it apart. When the float comes up, it would then push this guy up like this, whoop, push him up, and that would plug up the hole and stop the fuel from coming down. And then when the fuel in the bowl got low, these would sink down again. This gravity would allow this guy to drop down some more, and then fuel would then be able to flow around the point there. This one's kind of ugly. I'm definitely going to replace it. You know, actually, it's not terrible. I'm still going to replace it, though, because it's not worth messing with. I'm going to pull this guy out. This is the seat that the needle goes into. We're just going to make sure that it's not terribly corroded. Again, it looks pretty good. Most things actually look pretty good in here. I'm pleasantly surprised. We've got some old gasket material we're going to clean off, and we'll get all this junk out of here, put on new gaskets, clean all this stuff up, and it's not smooth and super shiny, so we'll probably clean some of that up, maybe with a wire wheel or something like that. But generally speaking, aside from just being a little rusted up so things weren't moving, this carburetor actually probably would have worked as is. It's a testament to their simple design, I guess. So, all right, so we'll go about cleaning some things up and go from there. Oh, first I was going to pull out this seat. That big old, see, this is, yeah, see, that's going to be corroded in there pretty good. Let's do this one. Might have to let this one soak. junk around it. Brake clean is really good at loosening up gaskets, whether you want it to or not. I'm just going to let it sit on there, let that soak in for a bit. A slightly wider screwdriver on this. It's just barely wide enough. Ha ha ha, got you, sucker. Well, I can see through the hole, so usable. There it goes.
Well, I tried to do a little sandblasting, but as you probably noticed, my sandblaster didn't do that great. Actually, soda blasting using baking soda. My air compressor is just not strong enough to run that particular blaster. I've got another blaster gun coming in the mail. It's not going to be here for a while, though, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to finish cleaning this up kind of by hand. It's not really in that bad a shape. Get some of this gasket off, and then I'll reassemble it. And then when I've got that other gun, I can do the exterior without any problems. I apologize if it got some background noise, some wind. I've got the garage door open because it's been so hot lately, and it's finally cool enough, so I'm cooling this place down in here while I'm working. It's actually kind of in the evening now. So let's go ahead and put this thing back together a bit more. So I've got all the parts to replace these shafts, and I could do that, but just feeling these here, there is zero play in these shafts, which is, oh, there's a little play that way, that's normal, but these are not worn at all, and that's really the main reason why I would want to replace them. They move good, they're not crazy. I'm just going to leave them, especially this guy here with its farmer weld in there. I don't know what's going on there. We'll just save those for another time. Got all sorts of good things. Now this is a little bit different style of our main jet, but it's going to be a little easier to adjust, I think. So we'll go ahead and use it. Got all the bits and bobs and pieces that we pulled out. So now it's just a matter of putting stuff back together. See how well we can do that. Now that does not seem to go down tight, which I'm not a fan of. Okay, so the new one of these is just a hair longer, or the threads don't quite go as far, or something. Whatever the case, it does not sit tight and crush that gasket, that little washer gasket, fiber gasket there. So I'm afraid it's going to leak around it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the new gasket with the old part here. This one looks in fairly decent shape. I don't think it's going to give us any troubles. It doesn't look clogged up or banged up, so we'll reuse it. And that's just how we'll do it. Nice and snug. That's better. We'll use the new needle down there. I think that'll work. All right, and that's put back together for now. Cleaned out some more later. We got to adjust it, of course, but we'll get it back on the tractor. I'll be happy as a clam.